Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopidana Vallabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Gopidana Vallabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Yasodanandana Raja Janaranjana Jaya Raja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Raja Dhanaranjana Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopidana Vallabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Kopidana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Raja Dhanaranjana Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Raja Dhanaranjana Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramhangsa Bharvadakacharya Asadhara Satushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swamiraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Grangi Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastavute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskya Dhyade Satarne. Do we have the 7th canto in here? Could someone look and see if the 7th canto is there? Om Agana Dvinandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Truviyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Bhavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 19, Text number 17. Next. Matra swasara duhitrava Navi vikshano bhavet Balavan indriya gramo Vidvamsam api karshiti Matra swastra duhitrava Nani viktasano bhavet Balavan indriya gramo Vidvamsam api karshiti Matra swastra duhitrava Bhavet indriya gramo Ladies. Matra with one's own mother. Swashra, with one's own sister. Duhitra, with one's own daughter. Va, either. Na, not. Avivikta asana, seated closely on one seat. Bhavet, one should be. Balavan, very strong. Indraya grama, the group of senses. Vidvamsam, the very learned and advanced person. Api, even. Karshiti, agitates. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter, for the senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. Purport. Learning the etiquette of how to deal with women does not free one from sexual attraction. As specifically mentioned herewith, such attraction is possible even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Generally, of course, one is not sexually attracted to his mother, sister, or daughter, but if one allows himself to sit very close to such a woman, one may be attracted. This is a psychological fact. It may be said that one is liable to be attracted if he is not very advanced in civilized life. However, as specifically mentioned here, vidvam sam api karshiti. Even if one is highly advanced, materially or spiritually, he may be attracted by lusty desires. The object of attraction may even be one's mother, sister, or daughter. Therefore, one should be extremely careful in dealing with women. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was most strict in such dealings, especially after he accepted the sannyas order. Indeed, no woman could come near him to offer him respect. Again, one is warned herewith that one should be extremely careful in dealing with women. A brahmachari is forbidden to even see the wife of his spiritual master if she happens to be young. The wife of the spiritual master may sometimes take some service from the disciple of her husband as she would from a son. But if the wife of the spiritual master is young, a brahmachari is forbidden to render service to her. Matra swasra duhitra va navivikta shano bhavet palavan indriya gramo vidvamsam api karshiti. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter. The senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. So this is a very famous verse, among some circles at least. And it's a continuation of Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita, Daiviyeshu gunamayi mamamaya dharatya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam taramti te. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes, is difficult to overcome. For those who have taken shelter of me can easily cross beyond it. The whole Bhagavatam is full of stories of persons who thought they could surpass the material nature, and they failed. The favorite story is Vishwamrita Muni, who was able to meditate for 60,000 years. Now, we can't do it for 60 minutes, and yet we think we're God. But he did it for 60,000 years in meditation, and just by hearing Menaka's ankle bells, a heavenly apsara or prostitute, he became distracted and he fell down as a victim for 100 years. Now for 20 years or 50 years, he became a householder for 100 years. And he fathered one daughter named Shakuntala, who's famous as being a very beautiful lady. And Prabhupada was saying that there's a picture of Vishwamrita Muni. He was leaving the ashram because he thought, I've had enough. And Shakuntala has a little, Menaka has this little baby, Shakuntala, and he's showing, isn't she a beautiful baby? You know, why can you leave? And he's going, forget it. That's after 100 years. It wasn't a one-nighter or something. It was 100 years of being household life. He decided he'd go back. And even after meditating for another 60,000 years, when Indra became disturbed, thinking that Vishwamrita Muni, he wants my post. Because everyone in the material world, if you get a position, you want to maintain it or get a better one, and you're afraid of losing it. So you work hard to get it, you spend all your time trying to keep it, and then when you lose it, you're in great distress. Therefore, hankering for some position in the material world is a cause of distress, but one is hankering for the position, thinking it'll give me happiness, but actually trying to get it gives one distress. And then when you get it, your anxiety, you're going to lose it, so that's more anxiety. And at the end, you have to lose it, so that's even more anxiety. So where is the happiness? Where does that come in? Maybe a few seconds, you think, well, I have this position, and then you're back in anxiety again. Sounds pretty pessimistic, doesn't it? It's supposed to be. So, Vishwamrita Muni, after another 60,000 years of meditating on Brahman, I imagine, then Indra became agitated again, thinking that this Muni's trying to get my position again, and he sent another apsara. But this time the Muni, when he heard the ankle bells, he became so angry that he opened his eyes, and his anger was so intense due to his austerity that from his eyes came flames and burnt the poor apsara to ashes. And then he thought, well, I just wasted all my austerity burning an apsara to ashes. This time I'm not going to fall victim either to lust or to anger. And so he went back for another 60,000 years to meditate. And finally Brahma said, all right, we'll give you second initiation. So he made him into a Brahmin. Luckily, as I've said before, in ISKCON we're a little bit more, we're not so strict. You can get second initiation without having to wait 180,000 years. Sometimes. So the idea is that the material nature is very tricky. Yoga chalati manasa, and it's supposed to be, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although we can understand to a little extent how great he is, it's really beyond our imagination. As I've given the story before, when Srila Prabhupada was talking to Tamal Krishna Maharaj as the temple commander in Los Angeles in 1968, he mentioned that there's a lotus flower in the spiritual world called Goloka Vrindavan, and it's so big that all the Vaikuntha planets can fit into it. And there are unlimited Vaikuntha planets, and each Vaikuntha planet is bigger than all of the universes put together. And Brahma, he lies down in a little cloud called the material energy, and Karanadaksha Vishnu lies down in the spiritual sky, and from his body comes the Karana ocean, the causal ocean. And from his breathing, unlimited universes emanate. More universes than there are mustard seeds in a bag of mustard seeds. Mustard seeds are very, very tiny. Do we use mustard seeds here? We do. They're tiny. And in one of the smallest, all those mustard seeds, they're all very tiny, but the smallest one, well, in all the mustard seeds, in all the universes, Krishna expands himself as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And all these little universes, or big universes, depending how you look at it, they all float on the Karna ocean in clusters. And in the smallest of all the universes, along with all the other universes, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu enters and fills half the universe up with water. And from his navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, all of them, but in this particular one that we're in, the navel, the lotus flower sprouts, and on top of the lotus flower, there's Lord Brahma with 4 heads. Now the universes where Brahma has 10 heads, or 100 heads, or 1,000 heads, or 10 million heads. But we have a small Brahma. He only has 4 heads. But it's enough. And then Lord Brahma, inside that lotus flower, which can't be a very small lotus flower, he manifests all the different planets, including where we're on now is called Bhumandala, which extends hundreds of millions of miles across. And in that Bhumandala, besides all the innumerable planets that are floating, like Mars and Venus, whatever, and the subterranean planets, in one of those, on Bhumandala, there's a little place called Jambudvip, which is the center of Bhumandala. And one section of that is called Bharatvarsha. And in one section of Bharatvarsha, we're living. And in that Bharatvarsha, there are continents where we are. And one of those continents is called North America now. And that's where Prabhupada was. And in North America, there are many states. One country called America, United States. One of the states is called California. And in California, there are many cities, and one of them is called Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, there are many, many different streets. One of them is called La Cienega Boulevard. And on La Cienega Boulevard, there are many, many houses, and one of them is called the Hare Krišna Temple. And in that Hare Krišna Temple, there's one temple commander, and he thinks he's controlling everything. So things are much bigger than we can imagine. As a matter of fact, they're unlimited, and Krishna is unlimited. So compared to Krishna, we're all very, very tiny. Even if we became 1/5,000th the size of tip of hair in size, wouldn't make us very big. I'm twice as big as you are. I'm 1/5,000th the size of tip of hair in size. Bow down. No, compared to Krishna, we're all completely insignificant. But Krishna is very significant, and therefore, Maya does not allow us so easily to approach Krishna if we have a false ego. So Maya is always trying to diminish our false ego, and we become very disturbed. Why are you trying to diminish the thing I've been trying to build up? And of all the things that will diminish our false ego is the idea that I'm the Lord and the enjoyer. So those who have the body of a man and the false ego of a man think, I am the enjoyer and the controller. And the woman, those who have the body of the woman, they think, all right, he wants to be the controller, the enjoyer, so I'll pretend I'm the enjoyed and you're controlling me. That way I can enjoy and control him. Sorry to let out the secrets. So, I remember one time I was in the airport with Srila Prabhupada, and one reporter was talking to Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, what do you think about, the lady reporter, what do you think about women's liberation? This is 1972, I think. There's actually a video of it. And Prabhupada said it's not a good idea. She said, don't you think women are equal? She said, how can you say that women are equal? He said that the women's position, she's always saying, take me, I'm your servant. Of course, the idea, yes, I'm your servant, and that way you become my servant. It's a two-way deal. I mean, that conjugal relationships should be a two-way deal. I'm going to become your servant, and you have to reciprocate and serve me and my children. Otherwise, it wouldn't work out very well. Because nowadays, everyone is thinking, I'm your servant, you're my servant, and I'm not your servant. I'm your Prabhu, but I'm not your Prabhu, but you're not my Prabhu. No, it has to be reciprocal, and then it works out. That's the way it's supposed to be. But the material nature will always say that actually you're the enjoyer, and you're the controller, and you should get the better end of the business deal. You should control and enjoy more than anyone else. And as soon as you see someone not trying to control and enjoy, then immediately Maya starts sending all kinds of allurements. Otherwise, when people run after Maya to try and enjoy her and control her, then she runs away. But when one stops, it says, all right, I give up. Then Maya says, oh, okay. Let me offer you something that you can't refuse. So if one wants unlimited material enjoyment and happiness, one simply has to learn how to become aloof. Or, even better than becoming aloof, is to become Krishna's servant. Kama sarvakama va, moksha kama udaradi, tivrena bhakti-yogena, yajeta purusha para. That if one is full of desire or has no desire, or wants liberation, then one should worship Krishna with tivrena bhakti-yogena, with concentrated endeavor. And then everything else will be supplied. Ananyas chintayan domam, ye jana paripasate, tesham nityabhyuktanam, yoga shemam vahamyaham. To those who are constantly devoted to those who are constantly meditating on my transcendental form, Ananyas chintayan domam, ye jana paripasate, who have taken shelter of me, for them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So we may run after material things, and then the material nature, or Krishna especially, will make it harder and harder to get these things. Because Krishna doesn't want us to run after a mirage. But if one takes shelter of Krishna, Krishna will say, all right, here's your mirage, try to enjoy. And then one realizes that we can enjoy and then take shelter of Krishna. But one realizes that Krishna is so kind, he's giving me these things so that I can utilize them in service, and therefore actually nothing is equal to taking shelter of Krishna. And if I take shelter of Krishna, then everything I need, Krishna will supply. That I don't have to worry about anything. But if one starts thinking, I am so powerful, I am so worthy of these material things, and therefore I don't really have to follow the rules and regulations anymore, then one will simply get into difficulty. Because that's what Maya says. Maya says, you've come to such a high platform, you don't have to worry about being so strict anymore. You can relax. It's like when you have the jaws of a crocodile and you hold them closed, and everyone's taking pictures of you, you've conquered the crocodile. And you think, wow, I'm a great conqueror of crocodiles. And then you relax for a few minutes, and then the crocodile opens his mouth and devours you. So that trying to conquer the material nature, which is Krishna's energy, is not really possible for the conditioned soul. Even Aruya Krishna Paramparam Tada, even one is able to go to Brahman, eventually, if one does not take shelter of Krishna, one will wind up back in Ljubljana, hopefully getting a book from one of the devotees. Therefore, the conclusion is that one should be take shelter of Krishna, and at the same time, not become bewildered by false ego and think that I am beyond the rules and regulations and I can just do whatever I want and I'll be all right. Just to prove how powerful I am. Like the case of Rajneesh, which I've cited many times, who challenged any woman in India to have him fall down. He was so proud of being a brahmachari. He even put it in the 2 major newspapers in India that I challenge any woman to spend the night with me and get me to fall down. So a very famous prostitute in India took up the challenge and spent the night with Rajneesh, Osa. And the next day he wrote an article in a major newspaper called Liberation Through Sex. So that's the material nature. However strong we may think we become, material nature is there to bewilder us. We're already bewildered, we're already identifying ourselves with these gross and subtle bodies. What more does material nature have to do to us? And even if one is beyond the material body, unless one takes shelter of Krishna, one will not find the ultimate happiness that one is looking for. One will still search for more happiness. And if the only happiness that's available is what material nature offers, then of course we'll accept that. Therefore the conclusion is we should not be proud of our so-called advancement. Of course there is advancement and there is detachment that causes knowledge, and detachment comes from pure devotional service. So we should be grateful that these things have been given to us. But we shouldn't be proud that now these are my possessions. As it says in the Bhagavatam, that the yogi should never take it for granted that he's conquered the mind, because then the mind will snap and conquer him again. One should always take shelter of Krishna. I remember one time when Prabhupada came to Boston in 1969 for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's, I believe it was his disappearance day. And Prabhupada was staying outside the temple, so his servant came and he told us afterwards, he said that Prabhupada sat on the front of his bed when he was going to take rest and fell back and then rolled over, and he said, I pray every night to Krishna to please protect me from Maya. So that's the humility that actually gives us protection. And if we think, I don't really need Krishna, I don't need devotional service, I've advanced enough, then one is already under the control of Maya. What to speak of falling to Maya? One is under Maya's control. If one thinks that the spark from the fire can be very, very comfortable outside the fire. So without Krishna, that there is no shelter. And with Krishna, one can be sheltered, even in the greatest difficulty. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? By the way, that's one of the major lessons of book distribution, is to take shelter of Krishna. And then Krishna reciprocates, because that's his mission, is to bring his other children back to the spiritual kingdom. So if that's our desire to do that, and we're desiring Krishna's help, then he supplies it unlimitedly. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, just related to your last statement, does it mean if we have a tough day in Sankirtan that we're not taking shelter of Krishna, or?
Well, who's to say I'm taking shelter of Krishna? We'll know we're taking shelter of Krishna when we're in the spiritual world, or at least in this world. When Krishna comes, then we can say, then we can think, well, maybe I'm taking a little shelter of Krishna. Tough day in Sankirtan? Yeah, it's a tough day because we're not thinking about Krishna. If we're thinking about Krishna, how could it be a tough day? But we have to get encouragement to think about Krishna. So sometimes Krishna gives us a tough day, because then we can think, what went wrong? Was I actually depending on Krishna? And how much can we act? I mean, it Just like if you want to lift weights, you can't expect you're going to lift 300 kilos all at once. You need some practice. So Krishna arranged it to show us, to inspire us to take more shelter of Krishna. We may be taking some shelter of Krishna, but sometimes Krishna puts us into some difficulty, so we can take more shelter of Him. And that's our advancement. So the tough day is probably one of our days when we get most inspired to advance in Krishna consciousness. So one, as Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, one has to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses him with genuine spiritual understanding. So unless there's tests, there's no advancement, really. So when the test is there, we should appreciate it. There's a great opportunity to try and take shelter of Krishna. Whatever happens, happens, but at least I should try to take shelter of Krishna, try to pray to Krishna, try to chant, try and concentrate more on my service, whatever. And then one will advance in spiritual life. Anything else? Hvala, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.